Hi, I'm Michael Igen here with Seven Wonders Cinema, and today on Take One we have Lewie and Noah Kloster, a powerhouse brother duo animators. We're so fortunate to have you on the show today to help speak to young, aspiring filmmakers about what the industry's like today and what you're doing.
Hey, I'm Lewie,
I'm Noah.
and we're brothers,
We're also animators.
and thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah.
So, Lewie and Noah, could you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing right now during coronavirus?
Yeah, so when the quarantine first happened, I got like really excited because I thought production companies would, cancel all their shoots, and then if they needed to make content, they'd order animations. But what ended up happening is that really didn't happen. Nobody's substituting because everyone's like saving money. So I think everything's just canceled instead of like pivoted. But what ended up happening is right before quarantine, we started talking to this production company who's solely focused on making creative work right now. And we're one of the 4 projects that they're working on. And we're the only animated project that they're working on right now. So when this whole thing went down, their 4 other video projects just got completely shelved, and now we have all their attention and focus, and it's going really well.
That's awesome. Could you tell us a little bit more about your role in the project? So from what I understand, you guys are producers for the commercial work, mostly, but also primarily directors and animators. Could you tell us a little bit about your process and how you work?
Well, our role is usually it's everything basically. We usually never really have producers or anyone, and we're the directors, animators, everyone. We do mostly everything except the sound design, and we have our film graded, like color graded, and
We're even our own caterers.
we're our own caterers. I do most of the cooking. And
Craft service is just in our cupboard.
Lewie does a lot of the typing and computer work, and I do a lot of the non-computer work, like drawing and building stuff.
Noah's got middle-aged man hands, and I have little girl hands.
So Lewie, I know you graduated from NYU with me and Steven. Could you talk a little bit about your experience at NYU and how you got to do some of the really cool stuff that you're doing now? And from my understanding, your piece you had in Sundance was a direct correlation of your time at NYU.
So NYU was like always my dream school for film, because I just knew that New York was the right place for me, and I knew like it was gonna be the right place for me it was gonna like put me in the right headspace. And what I did at NYU, I focused on like all the theory courses, the courses that were basically like philosophy of film or philosophy of motion or a light of animation. And so you can just talk and just hang out and talk about inspiration and talk about plans and ideas, taking writing courses and film editing theory courses. And my favorite course was a course called Sight and Sound Documentary. And I was lucky enough to sign up with like the best professor I've ever had in my life, and her name was Christine Choy. And she was insane in the best sense of that word. She'd come into class every day with a crazier story about like how her morning went that morning or something like. And by the end of the semester, she came into class and she was like, "I'm sorry I'm late. I just got back from Toronto. I had to buy cigarettes in Toronto." And we were like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, I bought a round trip ticket flight to Toronto so that I could come back the same day in order to buy duty-free cigarettes," which are cigarettes that you can buy at like the international price without the United States tax on it. So it's really cheap. And so she would go and buy 6 whole boxes and like pile up high of these cigarettes to make her trip worth it. And she'd end up saving money than if she were to buy 1 pack at a time at her bodega in New York. And that turned into discussions to make an animation about it. I recorded her talking about it maybe about 4 times, and every time I recorded her talking about it, cut it up into the most understandable narrative version of it. Took a few interview sessions to like bring it down into condensed 3-page script, which she wrote a lot of it too. It was super collaborative. And then after we went into the studio for the last time and she essentially just read the script, we like shook hands and I went off for summer back home in Minnesota, and he and I made it in one summer. And we were just gonna release it online, but she was like, you know, one festival I've never gotten into was New York Film Festival. Why don't we send it there before we release it? Maybe there's a sliver of a 1% chance that we'll get in. And then we ended up getting in, and then that like snowballed into like this huge festival run that included Sundance and Florida Film Festival. It was just like a wildfire. Once it got into like those 2 big ones, New York Film Festival and Sundance, you know, you get the the fee waivers codes so you can submit for free. And I just did it to all those that let me submit, and it was just a runaway train.
That's awesome. So, and after you guys did the festival run, the piece is 3.5 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's super short.
Yeah. So that's awesome. We love short content. But so could you tell us a little bit about how that led to doing commercial work? Obviously, like doing a short piece like that, people can see that you have the ability to tell a impactful story in a short amount of time.
So we got kind of lucky in that the year we went to Sundance, we were paired up. You're put in a program of all these other shorts, and you become pals with those filmmakers. One of the fellow filmmakers who was in our program, Henrik Moltke, and he co-directed a film with Laura Poitras for a company called Field of Vision, which is under the bigger company called First Look Media. And we became really good pals with this guy named Henrik, and then as a result, we became somewhat pals with Laura. Laura put in like a good word for us at First Look. Bless you. They had another company called Topic.com that was just starting out, and they were ordering short form content, and went into a partnership with them. It's just like it just unravels. The more festivals you show up to, the more opportunity you're gonna have for work.
And you did some work for Red Bull too, right?
Yeah, Red Bull was something else. That was, I do animations that I just released for Instagram, which is for fun. And I got like a cold call, and he was like, hey man, your Instagram came up during a projector meeting that we had, all sitting around a table at the Red Bull offices. I work at Red Bull. And your Instagram came up as like a contender to do an animation for us. And we didn't end up hiring you, but I back-pocketed your info for the next time I spearheaded a project for Red Bull. And he was like, do you want to do a video for us? I mean, it's just as simple as that. It's just like, he was like...
Well, yeah. But you put in work on your Instagram.
Yeah, I put in work on my Instagram. And so just to like get out there on Instagram, you never know who's gonna see it.
Could you walk us through what the process is like for one of these series, start to finish? So how do they begin, and what's the process like while you're creating it?
I'm doing a final delivery today, actually. It's been like a year-long project that we've been doing with First Look Media. It's our 3rd project with them, but that means it's our 15th film with them. So they ordered, for the latest project, they ordered 10 films. And this was a little over a year ago. And it was going to be a series about people's arrest stories. So like Noah and I were going to go out and interview people who have spent at least a night in jail and talk about their experience of being arrested and what the criminal justice system looked like through their eyes. That one started with Noah and I thought it'd be cool to animate a mugshot talking. To just like get a mugshot and then take pictures of different, like arrangements that the mouth could be in, and then get a sound bite from that person, and then have it talk and blink and tell the story of how they're arrested. Like a mugshot hanging on a precinct wall, telling the story of how they were arrested. And we made a 30-second version of that, more or less for fun.
Also, we kind of made the joke, but it's pretty, I mean, like, it makes sense. This is kind of like the show Cops, but not told through the cops' perspective, but told through the person getting arrested perspective.
So in terms of the process, would you send the interviews after you conducted them to First Look?
Yes.
They would come back. This is at least my understanding of the process from the way we work in the commercial world too, mostly, is you send it to the client, they review it, you refine it, they send it back, they give their notes. Then you go out and you actually record, or in our case, film things, but you guys are sending them animation. So I'm assuming you're sending them little pieces and style frames as you're producing the project, and they're giving notes, and then they'll send you their notes back and you'll do a few rounds of revisions to get it to where they want. Is that mostly how it is?
Exactly. But less style frames and more, they're called animatics. And it's just like, those are just like rudimentary drawings for each frame that you imagine, like what you imagine each frame to look like. And then you go through the entire film with these kind of like more rudimentary drawings with some minimal keyframing animation. That was like the cornerstone of the visuals of the project. And then they'd get back notes and...
Yeah, and I feel like there's this large misconception in our industry that when you're doing narrative work, there's not going to be a client involved in the process like commercial work. But I've really seen, and from what I've heard from other filmmakers, it's really exactly the same across the board. Would you say that that's true for the most part?
Yeah, well, right now, we couldn't be in a better situation because now we're working on a totally creative project right now. And it's originated from an idea that Noah and I had. We kind of mapped out this film that we wanted to make, and then a production company called 37th Degree expressed interest in working with us, and we've been collaborating on this project that Noah and I have been imagining for the past year. They hopped on board and they were like, listen, you guys haven't started production. You already have 10 hours of interviews with this guy. Why don't we hop in right now and give you the production support you need? And they've been like extremely thoughtful and creative folks. And man, sometimes it's the best to collaborate.
Exactly. I think that's really cool. That's great insight. Guys, I know that you said previously that you're not huge fans of using animation as an example of what you do. Could you tell us what you do use as references for what you do and what you would consider your mixed media form of art being, and if you're enjoying what you do?
Like, a lot of people think that to be a filmmaker you have to watch film, and to be an animation major you have to watch animations a lot, but I know a lot of writers aren't constantly reading books. Like, Hemingway would be at the bar every night. I mean, like, I think pulling inspiration from film is very important, and I think film more than animation. In my case, I think I pull a lot more inspiration from then. I think it's only natural to not just take inspiration from film. I think going to the museum, like Lewie said, is really important, and listening to music. I mean, we listen to a lot of music every day, all types of music.
Yeah, all types.
Music and talking to people, meeting new people, and telling stories around a campfire. Yeah, having fun. Like, that's a big inspiration. Like, you know, work hard, play hard. You know, like, you work hard during the day and then go have fun at night. And, like, just do you. I like to say I'm a filmmaker, but I use animation to tell the story because it's easier. Because, like, I don't... Like, if I want a car to explode in my movie, I'm not gonna explode a real car.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, filmmaker, and I feel like all of the films that I've made that happen to be animations are only animated because I just don't have the money to shoot it.
Would you say that you're telling me and the audience that your filmmakers, your medium right now is this cool mixed medium, but perhaps in the future, you could be telling stories in other ways as well. It's not necessarily just this one form of animation that you're looking for.
Bingo.
You nailed it. Yeah, exactly.
We have plans we want to do a live action feature. I'll always love animation, I'll always want to do it, and I'll always be doing it, but if I see an idea in my head as something other than animation, there's nothing in me from stopping me from chasing that image. If it's live action, if it's animated, doesn't matter. It's just like what I see in my head, I'll do my best to do it justice. And if I have like a burning desire to do it now, I'll animate it. Or if I feel like it could wait, then I'll wait until I have the resources.
So you're just trying to get the most creative ideas out there that you can with the resources you have, essentially.
Yeah. We are just trying to tell our story in the best way possible. We're mere cavemen writing stories on the wall with ink.
Do you guys have any advice for younger filmmakers that you think would have been helpful for you to hear?
I think that you should try to learn everything yourself. Like, if you really want to learn about something, just go on the internet and try to figure it out yourself. When you try to figure something out yourself, there's a better
chance it'll stick.
It'll stick better and it'll feel better, and you'll feel more motivated because you taught yourself how to do it. That you can tie that into another thing is talk to older people. Find older people that share the same love for things that you do. Like, find a person who loves making movies that's older, because they're looking for someone to talk to that's younger that likes making movies. Or talk to a painter because you really like painting. Maybe reach out to a painter on Instagram and say, hey, I'm just starting out. How do you do it? Or if you live in the same city, offer to meet up. Talking to people is so important, and people are really open to talking about what they love, like passions and stuff.
How about you, Lewie? Any thoughts?
I second everything he says. You did great.
Old people and the internet are the two best things in society these days.
So thanks so much for being on the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and to the viewers out there, if you like this video or take one, hit the subscribe button.
Hit the subscribe button. Give Philly Mike a subscription.